Good morning, students. Today we're going to solve what's called literal equations. So I don't like how they have it solve equations and formulas. Usually it's called solving literal equations. Okay. The reason I tell you this is because you can watch other videos on YouTube. And so if you were to type in the title that you want to watch a video like this, you would type in solving literal equations. So if there's a different name that is more common for a YouTube video, so if you need to hear it from some other voice, etc., you can type in solving literal equations. So the one nice thing about all these videos is that you can rewatch them. So if you forget how to do one of these concepts, you got the video list that I send you. Or you can just ask me, hey, what's the name of that concept? And show me the worksheet, and I'll tell you the name of it. You can go type in YouTube and find a video, another one to watch. And they all explain them correctly. They might explain it a different formula or a different way of solving it, but as long as it's legitimate, that's all that matters. I try to go by what I think is the quickest and easiest, or the quickest. It's only easy if you choose to memorize it, memorize those steps. Um, so that, the easy part depends on you, on how well you choose to memorize your steps. So solving literal equations. Notice in the directions, solve for x. So in every one of these problems, we're solving for x. Now, another way of thinking about it is we just really did these. We're going to solve it the exact same way we did the last worksheet. When you have multiple things on multiple terms and you're getting one term and solving for the variable such as x by itself. So how do we solve all equations? Reverse PEMDAS. Okay, doesn't change. Doesn't change whether there's variables in it or numbers. Okay. Now you could go ahead if you wanted to as a practice, just actually plug numbers in. Okay, if you think, for example, number 2, it looks confusing. Well, let's say if I plugged in a 4 there and a 6 there for the D, which is what you had problems like that in the last worksheet. You solve it the same way, exact same way as if it said x minus 4 over 2 equals 6. You do the same steps. It just happens to be variables instead of 4 and 6. They're variables C and D. So this should not scare you. Think, oh, look at all these letters, variables in here. I don't know what to do. No, it's the same steps. Reverse PEMDAS. Okay, so a good math student learns how to say, okay, what if I substitute numbers in for these other ones? How would I go about solving it? Okay, then that calms you down. All right, so let's go ahead and do number 2. It's already circled it anyway. So reverse PEMDAS. Now the first thing, there's 2 ways you could solve it. Let me get rid of this here. If I'm going to use truly just reverse PEMDAS right away. Remember, when I have more than one term in the numerator denominator, I've already told you this before, you should already have this down in your notes from prior lessons, and your middle school teacher should have already taught you this. When you have more than one term in either the numerator or denominator, you need to put parentheses around it. Okay? If you're going to solve it through the reverse PEMDAS. Okay? Like I said, there's more than one way, because then this would help me to understand. So now this says parentheses, I have it in the numerator here, divided by 2 equals D. Well, we see we do parentheses last. So that means I'm not touching the parentheses right now. I'm doing the opposite of division. The opposite of division is multiplication. So I'm going to multiply 2 on both sides. That cancels out the 2. Now I'm left with just x minus c. In parentheses, well, that really is just 1 out front, so I can now just take off the parentheses, and I have x minus c equals 2d. And then what's the last step? Remember, I'm trying to get x by itself. So what's with x? It's on the same side of the equal sign, a negative c. Remember that minus c or negative c, that's a term. How do you move any term across the equal sign? You do the opposite operation. So the opposite of negative c is plus c. And now it's gone, and there's my answer. X equals 2d plus c. Okay, so that's one way of doing it. The other way, which is very similar, is if I write this as a proportion. And of course, we've already talked about how to solve proportions. You solve proportions from 7th grade on. Okay, maybe even 6th. But for sure from 7th grade on, how do you solve all proportions? Cross multiply. And again, I have more than one term, so I put parentheses in that. 1 times x, the quantity x minus c, equals 2d. Okay, cross multiplying. Well, 1 times anything itself, so I just have the x minus c, minus c equals 2d. And again, add the c across, and there I get the same answer, 2d plus c. So you can either write it as a proportion, cross multiply, and then solve it from reverse PEMDAS that way, or go right away to the reverse PEMDAS. Okay, so that's what you're doing in all of these. Let's see if there is a more complicated one. Oh, here we're solving for a y. So from 7 through 12, you're solving for a y. Trying to see if they have a y in 2 terms or not here. No, they did not. So this is the simpler version of it. I might pull out another one later on, or maybe just for warm-up, so where you have a y, for example, in 2 terms, and then there's an extra step to do there, but you do not have one here. Let's say number 12. Okay. Let's say I want to not deal with fractions. We've talked about this before. How can I get rid of the fraction? Multiply by the common denominator. Well, first off, I could first see here before doing that, I can see if I subtract the a across, it cancels out. A minus a is 0. So really, now I only have 2/3 y equals b. Okay. Then I would just multiply by the reciprocal, 3/2. Because 3/2 times 2/3 is 1. Remember, we are always solving for 1 y or 1 whatever the variable is that they're asking you to solve for. So now you have y equals 3/2 b. And there's my answer. And every one of you should know that 3/2 equals 1.5. Okay. So sometimes in the DCAS, don't forget at the end of the year, they say, okay, identify all the equations that are true. So one might be written as a fraction, 3/2 b, another might be written as 1.5 b. You need to know that they're the same thing. So you need to be able to convert between fractions and decimals, just so you know that. Okay. Let's do one of these. We'll do 14. Again, you can always pause the video, go back, to write down the notes. Here's another way, and I'll probably say this in class multiple times as well. Struggling students are going to have to watch the video multiple times. It's only an A and perhaps a B student that's going to only have to watch it one time and really understand it. It just soaks in your head. Boom, makes total sense. I've got it. I don't have to watch it again and do it. If you're not an A or B student, you're going to have to watch this multiple times. It's no different than when you don't get it the first time the teacher explains it perfectly in class. Okay? So for some people, math makes sense. And they hear it one time. Yep. So I had a girl like that last year. Explained one time in her head, boom. Aces every test. Okay? Doesn't have to study for tests. Because it just makes sense to her. She got a math brain. Others, you have to explain it multiple times. Well, that's what the video is for. You can watch it multiple times. Okay? The steps don't change. You still explain the steps perfectly the first time in the video. So it's up to you to memorize the steps. Now, if you don't understand why a step is a step, that's what you ask in class. You come and ask me. Other students may not be able to explain why. Okay, and I'll explain to you why. And I might give you another simpler example to show you. So as you're taking your notes, you need to write down if there's some step that you don't understand why it's happening, then you need to write down, I don't understand why this step goes from here to here. And then those are the questions you ask in class. So that's what classwork is for. So these videos you're supposed to watch, take notes at home, have all those notes down, and then you've written down your question you already have. So now when you have all this time, the vast majority of time to work in class, you immediately ask those questions, and then boom, you can just pop out the assignment. Do it at the end of class. Okay. So you be watching these at home, sometimes multiple times. Write down if you don't understand a step, write down what you don't understand about that step, for example, and then ask it in class. Some people, they don't need to ask anything because it makes sense the first time, like I said. and they've got it down. Others it might take 2 times. Others it might take 3 times. You might only have to watch one problem multiple times. So they don't have to watch the entire video multiple times. If you understand one problem already on it first time, you're done with that one. You just watch that part of the video that you need to rewatch multiple times, is what I'm saying. Okay, you don't have to watch the whole video. So if the whole video is 18 minutes, I'm not going to do 18 times 18 of, multiple times of 18. I should understand certain problems the very first time, or second time. And it's only the really tough problem that you might have to watch 3 or 4 times. It might take 2 minutes. Okay, no big deal. And then if you still don't get it, write down a question about it. Ask it the next day in class when you have time to work. All right, here we go. 14. 1/4. So you have to know what 1/4 is. This is changing words into algebraic equations and solving it. Notice this: write an equation and solve for the variable specified. So there's 2 things you're doing. You're writing an equation first, and then you're solving it. What is an equation? It has an equal sign right there, which then it has an expression on the left side and an expression on the right side. That's the definition of an equation: an expression that equals an expression. Remember, an expression is made up of 1 or more terms. Okay, so this expression, number 11's expression, has 1 term on the right side, 3b is it, and actually only 1 term on the left side, okay, because this is 5 times a group. So remember, terms are separated plus or minus signs. When I say plus or minus signs, that is not within the parentheses. Parentheses counts as one thing. So that plus sign inside there doesn't count as having terms, okay, because it's all within the parentheses. So it really says 5 times the quantity 2a plus y. So this is a times sign. Remember, I told you terms are separated by plus or minus signs. It would have to be a plus there instead of a times sign. Any plus or minuses within parentheses do not count. That parentheses is one entire group. Okay? When you talk about terms. All right, so here we go. 1/4 of a number. Of, remember, means times a number x. So 1/4 of x, okay, is, what's is mean in math? Equals. So I want to see those symbols right like this. You can write it right there. So it's right above the words themselves. So if you go back and you're studying your sheet for your test, you have those right there. You know, oh, is means equals, of means times, etc. 3 more than means plus. 3 more than 3 times a number y. So it's 3y. So there's my equation. Okay, so now I'm just putting together 1/4 x equals 3 plus 3y. And it says solve for x. Okay. So now I ask myself, what is with x? There's my x. I need it to be 1x. How do I change? This is 1/4 times x. I need it to be 1x, not 1/4 x. So how do I get to a 1? 1/4, I have to multiply by 4, the reciprocal. 4 times 1/4 is 1. Now I have 1x that I'm trying to solve for. Whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other side. So I multiply by 4 on the left, I must multiply by 4 on the right. And now I go ahead and distribute that through there, and I get 12 plus 12y. Distributor property. You gotta know the name of the property. So x equals 12 plus 12y. That'd be my answer. Now, if it was multiple choice on a DCAS, they might leave one like this, 4 times that quantity. They might distribute it out. There's another one. Okay, that'd be 2 answers. I mean the same thing. Okay, so you got to recognize that those are the same answers. All right, so that's that side. Now we have mean, median, mode. You've all been taught this in middle school multiple times. Mean, what's another word for mean? Average. Okay, how do we get the average? We add up all the numbers and divide by the number of numbers there are. So we'd add 2 plus 5 plus 11 plus 3 plus 9, get that total answer. That's 7, 18, 21, 30. Divided by how many numbers are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is 6. That's your mean. Okay, median. Remember, median is I first arrange the number from smallest to greatest. Notice they are not like that right now. So I need to rearrange it. 2, 3, 5, 9, 11. Now I have it smallest to greatest. To make sure when you're done, it's easy to do that one because there's not many numbers. But say there's more numbers like that, make sure you count how many total numbers are here. And when I rearrange them, do I have that same total number of numbers? Okay. One way to deal with that is you cross it out as you go along. 2, 3, 5, 9, 11. Okay. So you make sure you counted every one. All right. So I number from smallest to greatest, and then I take the middle number is what the median is. So how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The middle number is the third number. There's 2 on the left and 2 on the right. So 5 is called the median. Some teachers, if it's a smaller number like that, they say, okay, just cross out one at a time from each end. And then you're left with a 5 right there. Okay. Some might say, let's rearrange it again there. 2, 3, 5, 9, 11. And they see you have 5 numbers divided by 2. That equals 2.5. So it's between the second and third numbers, or 2.5. So it's going to be after the second one, okay, which is then 5. Okay, and again, you see 2 on each side. So that's the median. That's the median. And you're doing that for each one of these. And last one is the mode. The mode is the one that occurs the most. Mode most. Okay, so is there a number in this set that occurs more than any other? No. So there is no mode here. So for mode, you'd say no mode. Okay. If we looked in here, we can see 3 occurs twice there. So number 2, the mode is 3. Now there can be also 2 modes, as in here, 6 and 6. There's got 2, and 10 and 10 that has 2. That's called bimodal. Bi meaning 2, so it would have be 2 modes. Okay, those should be all familiar terms to you. Okay, so that's just what you're doing the same thing given different formats. So here's just a list of numbers. This middle group, they tell you how many of each. Okay, this is a line plot as it tells you in each line plot. They tell you how many you have of each. So you have 1 0, you have 1 2, you have 2 3s, 3 4s, 2 5s, 2 6s, 1 7, 2 8s, and 1 9. So it's already arranged from smallest to greatest for you for the median. So that's nice. So I got to count how many total numbers I have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 numbers. So if I think of it, divided by 2, it's 7.5. So it's the one after the 7th one. The 8th number is it. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. So 5 is the median. MED for median, 5. Easy to see from the line plot which one is the mode. Obviously, which one is do we see 3 times right there? 4. Okay, and then mean, I have to add up all the numbers. So I have 1 0, I have 1 2, I have 3 3, 2 3s, etc. Add them all up, get the total number, and divide by 15, as we saw. There's 15 numbers total there. Next set is the stem and leaf. It's called a stem and leaf. The stem always counts more. It's usually either worth 10 or 100 or 1,000. The key down here is it shows you how to read it. So it says 2, that stands for the stem, slash, here's my slash right here, and then the leaf part is the 3 there. And it says that means that equals 23. So that tells me this stem is worth a 10. 2 times 10 is 20, and the 3 is the singles digit for 23. And so again, with a stem and leaf, you have it in numerical order from smallest to greatest: 21, 23, 27, 27, 28, 30, 31, 39, 42, 44, 44, 44, 46, and 48. I'd have to add all those numbers up, divide by the total number of numbers, and that'd be my mean. The median, how many do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So when there's an even number, 14 divided by 7, 2, and you get 7. So now I have to take the 7th and the 8th numbers and find the middle number between those. You can add them together, divide by 2, or just find the midpoint between them. So let's look at the 7th and 8th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 31 is the 7th and 39 is the 8th. So what is half? What's the number, the midpoint of 31 and 39? Well, very simple. You take what's the difference between 39 minus 31 is 8. Divided by 2 is 4. So I either add 4 to 31 and get 35, or I subtract 4 from 39 and get 35. So in this case, the median is 35. So the median is not always one of the numbers listed. If there's an even number of numbers, it's the midpoint of the two middle numbers. If there's an odd number of numbers, then there's going to be one exact median, one of the numbers in your set there. In most, here I can see it, there are 344s. Okay. And the last two is, again, just in a word format, you know. So they give you all these lists, find the median, okay, and the dollar and cents. Jack scores on 20 quizzes, so I've already told you how, on 20-point quizzes, I meant. Okay. And you got 16 out of 20, 18 out of 20, etc. Find the mean, median, and mode of his quiz scores. So again, listed in order from smallest to greatest. All right, that goes ahead and ends this one. 21 minutes.